This film features some of the most remarkable cultural and historical sites of the ancient Roman heritage, united within the route Roman frontier within the Romania-Bulgaria cross-border region. The backbone of the route winds along the lower Danube, which forms today a natural border between Romania and Bulgaria. The river, once called Danubius, was the northern border also of the Roman Empire, a powerful natural barrier. It served for protection and as a convenient trade route for providing supplies to the Roman legions. For its time, Rome was the political, economic, cultural, religious and military center of the world, and, thanks to the construction of consolidated infrastructure, one of the largest empires in the history of the world existed for more than 2000 years.
Дунавския лимес. Лимес означава граница. Наложило се по личното пространство. В случая говорим за римска граница, като Дунава е една от най-дългите граници на древноримската държава. Включва 8 държави вече, включват части от този лимес, от тази дунавска граница. Знаете, наричаме Дунав европейската Амазонка. Тръгва от Бавария, от Аниген и стига до Черно море. Римляните оценяват отрано качеството на Дунав като една преграда. Те са иначе на 3 континента разположени като една огромна държава в Азия, в Африка и в Европа. Освен в Дунав използват като една преграда, която да спира нежелани нашествия или прониквания. Ефрат е също една такава граница, говорейки за Азия.
The Roman limes had a strong symbolic value. The limes distinguished the great empire, a symbol of civilization and order, from the barbarians, a symbol of chaos, hazard, as well as material and spiritual poverty. During the existence of the Roman Empire, its limes were not permanently and continuously delineated. It served as a starting point for expanding into new territories with the purpose of generating new sources of income and for military campaigns. Its physical structure consisted of fortress walls, mounds, palisades, castella, castra and other types of forts. Bridges and front posts facilitated military operations and served as the basis for expansion. During the reign of Emperor Trajan, the limes of the Roman Empire reached its maximum length of more than 5,000 kilometers. It extended from the Atlantic coast of Scotland across Europe to the Black Sea, continuing onto the Red Sea, passing through North Africa and reaching the Atlantic Ocean. Out of all fortified borders of the Roman Empire, the most problematic were the ones along the River Rhine and the Danube as well as the eastern line. The northern border was the longest and most difficult to manage, therefore the Danube limes had a largely protective function. The Danube limes in Romania is 1,075 kilometers long and includes fortification systems, walls and earth, fortresses, towns and cities, settlements, structural elements of bridges and harbors. The Roman limes in the Bulgarian land is 471 kilometers long, with its westernmost point being the mouth of the Timok River and its easternmost point, the town of Silistra. The construction of the Danube limes began in the 1st century AD after the conquest of the Thracian lands lying between the Danube and the Balkan mountains, consisting of military camps, settlements, observation towers, and other facilities along the southern bank of the river. With the conquest of Dacia province, present-day Romania, the borders shifted to the north. The newly conquered territories were included in the province of Mysia. Favorable conditions were created for the development of agriculture, crafts and trade, as well as the urban planning in Mysia. In the late 3rd century, the rule of Rome in Dacia was overthrown. These events, as well as the invasions of the Goths, forced the central Roman power to take decisive measures in order to consolidate its Balkan territories. In connection with the administrative reform, the province of Dacia Ripensis was established, with its main city being Ratiaria, village of Archar. In the late 3rd, early 4th century, the Danubian limes was intensively restored and new strongholds were built at important strategic sites in the interior. The invasion of the Goths and the Huns in the last quarter of the 4th century brought destruction to most of the fortresses. The late Roman Empire began its decline by shrinking its borders, which were torn apart by barbarian tribes and later destroyed. Some of the ancient fortresses continued to exist also during the Middle Ages. The constant threat of attacks was the reason for the continuous construction of fortifications and strongholds in areas which remained under the control and supervision of the Roman army. The first fortification activities of the ancient Romans began in the mid-1st century on the southern banks of the Danube in Ischus and Nove. More than 40 fortresses have been discovered in the Bulgarian part of the Limes. 4 legion camps belonging to Lower Mysia have been partially studied. The organization of the road system in southeast Europe during the antiquity was the work of the Romans. It was the roads that glorified Rome and remained the longest-used facilities even after the decline of the empire. Dozens of Roman roads crossed the territory of the Romanian-Bulgaria cross-border region. The ancient Romans built 8 bridges between the Iron Gates Gorge and the Danube Delta. The most remarkable facility from this period was a bridge of stone and wood at Pontes Drobeta in Turnu Severin, built between 102 and 105. The bridge was used for a long time for commercial and military purposes until it was intentionally destroyed by the Romans in order to ensure better protection. The Danube River was a navigable road for the empire, with ports along its banks serving an entire fleet. One of the largest ports of the empire was Tomis, present-day Constanta, Romania. The large-scale construction work of Emperor Trajan consisted of the planning and construction of some of the most beautiful ancient cities. Several of them possessed the status of a colony, a city equal to the capital of the Roman Empire, namely Ulpia-Oescus, Drobeta and Tomis. Few are the ancient settlements on which no modern cities have arisen. Remarkable are the remains of the Roman fortresses, partially preserved walls of Bononia, Vidin, Sucidava, Corabia, Capidava, and others. The wealth of the northern provinces is evident in many artifacts preserved in historical museums. Inscriptions on marble and stone tell of the millennial grandeur of the Roman Empire and the lives of the local inhabitants. Unique floor mosaics from the ancient sites of Ratiaria, Ulpia, Ischus, Tomis, and others. The route is a bridge between cultural identity, diversity, dialogue, tolerance, and understanding in the contemporary context of a united Europe and an increasingly globalized world. This is a prerequisite for the development of this cross-border region as a year-round tourist destination. Bononia came to life in the late 1st, early 2nd century as a castle and road station of the Roman province of Mysia. It is located on the high right bank of the Danube. It is most likely that a military auxiliary troop building in the Danube road was deployed in this place. In the 2nd-3rd century, the city flourished and the port served the Danube and merchant navy. Towards the late 3rd, early 4th century, the ancient city had a solid fortification system, which placed it among the big urban centers of the empire. The city had a shape of a rectangle extending north-south with an area of about 20 hectares. The length of the northern wall was about 365 meters, and of the west about 600 meters. Archaeologists have uncovered 9 round towers with a diameter of 19 meters and wall thickness of 3.7 meters. Ancient Bononia was captured and destroyed by the Avars in the 6th century. A medieval Bulgarian fortress was built on top of the existing foundations of the largest Roman fortress on the lower Danube. The first construction works date back to the end of the First Bulgarian Kingdom, 681–1018. The Vidin fortress was the most important fortification structure in northwest Bulgaria during the Second Bulgarian Kingdom. Bulgarian Tsar Ivan Stratimir carried out its biggest expansion when a significant number of internal walls and towers were built. The fortress played an important role during the Ottoman domination from the 14th to the 19th century. It is no surprise that the Turks used to call it the Virgin Fortress because it had never been captured by force. At the end of the 18th century, it was no longer used for defensive purposes, but functioned mainly as a weapons warehouse and a prison. The courtyard is over 0.5 hectares. It consists of 2 main walls arranged in 2 concentric quadrangles and 4 towers. The outer walls were surrounded by a moat full of water over which there was a drawbridge, now made of stone, and the main gates to the fortress. Inside, the authentic atmosphere has been preserved. The fortress is on the list of Bulgaria's 100 national tourist sites. Today, it is the only fully preserved fortress in Bulgaria, better known as the Baba Vida Castle. Vidin Medieval Festival was founded in 2012. It has become a meeting place for the cultures of the peoples from antiquity and the Middle Ages, from the east and the west, the north and the south. Every year, the festival editions have different themes related to the recreation of the ancient and medieval atmosphere in the Baba Vida fortress. Martial arts reenactments, medieval music, armaments and clothing, tasting of medieval cuisine, church plate, etc. The Roman castle near Belogricic was built in the period 1st–3rd century to protect the road leading from the town of Retiaria to the interior of the empire. It was built on the highest terrace, and later medieval construction was built on it. In the immediate vicinity there was a citadel used as an observation point and for signaling. The ancient city called Colonia Ulpia Iscus emerged during the period of 106-109 upon the remains of the military camp of the 4th Scythian and 5th Macedonian legions from the beginning of the 1st century. Many roads were then built to serve the army, administration and trade in the empire and beyond. The military camp was given the status of a colony after the glorious victory of Emperor Marcus Ulpius Trajan over the Dacians. The city became an important crossroads, experiencing a boom in the 2nd and 3rd centuries when the central urban part was built. Monumental civil and religious architecture thrived. Ulpia Iscus had the rectangular shape characteristic of Roman cities, with perpendicular streets laid out east-west and north-south. The streets were covered with stone slabs under which plumbing and sewerage canals were laid. The city's entire area was 28 hectares. In the center was the Forum complex, which was made of limestone in Corinthian style. In its southeastern part is the Fortuna Temple, built around 190. At the northern side of the Forum, the Temple of the Capitoline Triad was built in 125. It glorified the main Roman deities, Jupiter, Optimus Maximus, Juno, and Minerva. Close by was the magnificent building of the civilian basilica, built in 135. This was where the court proceedings, government and trade in the colony took place. The city was in its heyday also during the 4th century under the rule of Emperor Constantine the Great. On the bank of the Danube there was a large stone wooden bridge between Ulpia Iscus near the village of Gigan and the Roman fortress of Sucidava, Corabia. In the early Christian era, Iscus was an episcopal center. The period of the Great Migration of the peoples, 4th, 6th centuries, posed a new threat to the Roman Empire: barbaric invasions from the north. Their raids did not bypass Iscus, which was captured by Attila's Huns in 447 and was finally destroyed and burned down by the Avars in 586. Life in Iscus continued until the Turkish invasions in the 14th century, as there was a medieval settlement existing on the remains of the ancient city. Olpia Iskus is now an archaeological reserve. Today, one can see remnants of streets, temples, a large civilian basilica. Archaeologists have also found a forum complex, temples of the Capitoline Triad, Jupiter, Juno, Minerva, public buildings, baths, etc. Nikopol Fortress. There are remains of fortress walls discovered on a high hill with steep slopes at the northwest corner of the modern-day town. The fortress could be entered through the western gate. Traces of ancient walls were discovered during reconstruction of the so-called Kale. Dimum Castle dates back to the 1st century AD, and gradually, from an unfortified settlement, it grew into a fortified border camp. Traces of Thracian tribes inhabiting the area have been found nearby.
Античният кастел Димум е част от долнодунавския лимес. Още много рано, в началото на първи век, тук пристигат помощна войскова част и прави свой лагер, който се нарича кастел. Този ранен кастел все още ние не сме го открили. Той е бил каменно-землено-дървен, но има данни, че тук, на това място, освен кастел, имало и митница, защото Димум е на границата на Римската империя с васалното Тракийско царство. И всъщност това Тракийско царство е трябвало да плаща данък на Римската империя и тази митница е била свързана именно с тези първи такива фискални политики на Римската империя. Неговата история е много стара. Всъщност името, трябва да кажем откъде идва името на Димум. Това е от живялото тук тракийско племе Димензи и оттам наречен Димум. Димум всъщност е един кастел, който е бил в помощ на лагера на първи италийски легион, който е в Свищов, само на 14 км източно от Димум. И всъщност тук на тази територия са били организирани и построени и 5 крепости, които вероятно са били в помощ на легиона. Тези помощни части, които са настанени в кастела, са играли именно такава роля да подпомагат дейността на големия легион със седалище Нове при Свищов. Освен това, тук при Димум е имало най-вероятно самите канали по Дунава са били много удобни за акостиране на различни кораби и така се е развивала търговията, а в същото време и захранването на легиона с стоки. Има данни, че тук е имало пристанище, в което са акостирали кораби. Западно от Димум, при Секориска, пък имаме сведения, че там е била и корабостроителницата, там са се правили кораби. Разбира се, тези неща са отбелязани в историческите извори и има много сведения именно за този долнодунавски флот, който е бил организиран и в Нове, и в Димум. Кастелът е известен от много отдавна, още в края на 19 началото на 20 век. Мощните крепостни стени са стърчали дълго време над терена и са впечатлявали хората, особено тези, които са се занимавали с българските старини. Тук, където ние се намираме в момента, пред западната кула и крепостна стена, имаше улица, която извеждаше към Дунава. Част от самата крепост, от самата кула беше открита, но над нея имаше съвременни постройки. Чрез археологически разкопки тази кула се изчисти, разкри се крепостната стена, направи се проект, по което тя се възстанови и експонира и сега хората могат да придобият впечатление какво е представлявала тази крепост. Откритията в кастела за сега все още са само укрепителната система и малко повече проучена. Проучена е една голяма обществена сграда, принципия в центъра на крепостта. Разбира се, от планировката на самия кастел има още много какво да се проучва. Трябва да се разкрият помощните помещения, казармените помещения. Освен това, трябва да подчертая, че тук живота е продължил доста дълго време. От първи век от новата ера с малки прекъсвания до днес дори. Защото руините на късноантичния кастел се заселват варварски племена, след това идва периода на средновековието, тук е засвидетелствано селище от 9-11 век, като имаме монети дори от 13 век. Вече знаем по исторически данни, че в Белене и в Димон се заселват павликяните, които пък дават основата на съвременното Белене. Така че живота тук е доста дълго време, на едно ограничено място продължил и чрез разкопки се възстановява тази историческа картина на селището. И има още доста какво да се разкрива. Нищо, че една трета от крепостта е, за съжаление, в Дунава. Самата сграда също е била много впечатляваща. Тези масивни пилони, като колони, които са носили вероятно втори етаж. Тя е била много монументална, за което говорят и самите останки на терена. Масивни зидове, масивни пилони, изградени от много големи каменни квадри.
Nova is the best studied and protected Roman legionary camp in the northeastern provinces of the empire. It originated as the seat of the 8th Augustus Legion around 45 AD. A quarter of a century later, the 1st Italian Legion was stationed in the camp. The elite troop was made up of new recruits, each of whom was 6 Roman feet tall. Originally, the fort had an area of about 17.7 hectares and was later expanded to the east by another 10 hectares. The camp had a rectangular shape measuring 485 meters at 365 meters and was built in immediate proximity to the high banks of the Danube. There was a gate on each wall, as the northern one led to a harbour. Behind the fortress walls were the legionary headquarters, the military hospital, the officers' homes, the legionary baths, the soldiers' barracks, the residence of the commander of the legion, and the barracks of the auxiliary troops. The civilian settlement was located outside the fortress walls. Nove was an important part of the Roman defense system. The camp was also visited by Roman emperors Trajan, Hadrian, and Caracalla. During the reign of Constantine the Great, changes were made in the urban planning and architecture. The city's appearance was characterized by new buildings, churches, workshops of craftsmen. In the 5th-6th century, Nove was also an episcopal seat. The city was last mentioned in the early 7th century. One of the most impressive buildings found in the camp is the Principia, the legion's headquarters, built in the 1st century. It is now on display for visitors, with its partially restored buildings being a natural setting of a stage for reenactment events. The Valetudinarium, or military hospital, is located in the left front part of the camp and borders on the north with the inner street Via Segulares, which surrounds the entire camp. The hospital consisted of a chain of rooms, hospital rooms, a sanitary room, etc., with a wide corridor. In the middle there was a courtyard surrounded by a colonnade in which a sanctuary dedicated to the gods of health, Asclepius and Hygiea, were found. The construction and operation of the hospital took place from the late 1st to the mid-2nd century. The passage from the homes of the Legion's senior officers has been studied in the western front part of the camp. A large stone building of the urban villa type has been found, dating back to the early 2nd century with an area of about 1,600 square meters. Some of the earliest finds in Nove were uncovered there, including coins, imported glass, and pottery vessels, bronze objects. The Legion's baths, or Thermae Legionis, occupied almost an entire neighborhood. They faced the west, according to the Roman custom that going to the baths should be done in the afternoon. In various parts, furnaces were found where the water was heated in copper pots, and hot air was released to the floor and wall heating systems. Spištov Museum of History. The archaeological exhibition is dedicated only to the Roman military camp and the early Byzantine town of Nove. Arranged on a thematic and chronological principle, it provides an insight into both the scope of the Roman expansion and the resemblances in everyday life and culture in the various provinces of the empire. In one of the halls, a special emphasis is laid on the museum's rich collections of hairpins and needles, bone and bronze ornaments, small bronze sculptures and coins. Eagle on the Danube Ancient Heritage Festival. The festival recreates the ancient history of the Bulgarian lands along the Danube, the way of life, culture and military clashes between Imperial Rome and the tribes and peoples inhabiting vast territories, Thracians, Dacians, Goths. Reenactors from Bulgaria, Romania, Italy, Germany, Poland, and other countries take part in the festival. The program includes scientific conferences and competitions. The festival was organized for the first time in 2008 at the initiative of the groups for historical reenactments Legion First Italica and Cohors First Thrakum to the Spištov Tourism Council. The city of Victory near the Danube, Nicopolis ad Istrum, was founded by Emperor Marcus Ulpius Trajan in honor of the end of the Dacian War in 106. The settlement was built on a slightly elevated plateau on the left bank of the Rusica River. The foundation of Necropolis ad Istrum was hewn on Trajan's column located at San Marco Square in Rome. Nicopolis ad Istrum was an economically powerful city with a rich cultural life. Seksaginta is situated in the modern-day northwestern part of Russe, on a hillside close to the Danube banks.
Секса е един от най-интересните римски военни лагери по Дунава. И това защо? Защото времето на възникване на Кастела, като такъв, средата на първи век, е свързано с завладяването от страна на римляните на територията до делтата на реката. Унищожението на Одриското царство и присъединяването на тези територии към провинция Мизия. Именно благодарение на флота, който е тук в Сексагинта Приста, тези прословути 60 пристиса, 60 кораба, Римската империя успява бързо в рамките на няколко десетилетия да завладее териториите източно от река Янтра и да ги превърне в част от провинция Мизия. Ролята на крепостта в зависимост от времето през историческия период, съответния исторически период е различно. Ако в началото тя е един от най-важните военни центрове по долния Дунав, с течение на времето и изтеглянето на няколко от легионите, с образуването на провинция Дакия северно от река Дунав, ролята постепенно намалява и от един строго военен лагер започва да се превръща в едно цивилно селище, което в един период от време успява да добие някаква форма на градски права. Не случайно Клавдий Птолемей нарича града Пристеполис, т.е. град Приста. Варварските нашествия през различните периоди довежда до това, до загуба на население, до преструктуриране на войсковите гарнизони. Крепостта отново се възвръща към старите си военни функции. С течение на времето отново се трансформира в цивилен лагер. Тоест това не е една константна величина, а има движение на войскови части, движение на цивилно население, промяна на ранг и на статут в крепостта. Но нещото, което е изключително важно тук през Сексагинта Приста и което на другите места по Дунавския лимес до сега не е регистрирано, е, че ние имаме една невероятно рядко срещана културна приемственост. От късно елинистическата епоха, т.е. от времето преди римското завоевание на Балканите, до средата на трети век, т.е. вече в разцвета на римската военна власт тук на Балканите, ние имаме един сакрален, един светилищен комплекс на хълма, на който се намираме в момента. Тракийско ямно светилище от късно елинистическата епоха, а през римско време върху централната яма от това ямно светилище имаме изграден храм на тракийския конник и на Аполон. Едва ли е случайен факта, че вътре в този храм на тракийския конник по същия начин, както през елинистическата епоха, има ритуали, извършвани в ями. Това е изключително характерна обредност за тракийските земи преди римското и след римското им завоевание. В днешния град Русе от Сексагинта Приста могат да бъдат видяни няколко неща. В частта, която е превърната в експозиция на открито, която е част от музейните експозиции на регионален исторически музей, може да бъде видяна северозападната част на тази крепост на късноримската Сексагинта Приста, имам предвид от 4 до 6 век. Редица възстановки, един невероятно интригуващ германски бункер от Втората световна война, в който представяме религиозния живот в провинция Долна Мизия по оброчен материал. Същевременно, извън очертанията на тази наша експозиция, да могат да бъдат видяни останките на храма на Аполон, принципията, т.е. щаба на войсковата част, която е била тук. Както и сега се намираме при югоизточната крепостна стена, основите на няколко бойни кули, и все още може да бъде видяно в града и тази прословута, може би най-високо запазена римска крепостна стена, откривана чрез разкопки в днешна България. Всичко това може да бъде видяно от посетителите на град Русе, изобщо от туристите, които идват в града. Ето тук, например, на тази малка площ имаме следното нещо. Ями от Тракийското ямно светилище, римска яма, османски ями букучни от 19 век и крепостна стена от 4 век. Всичко това в рамките на 20 квадратни метра площ. Ето това е Сексагинта. Непрекъснато обитаване на този хълм от 3 век преди новата ера до сега, докато водим този разговор.
Roman Market, Ancient Festival, Russe. The program includes reenactments of Roman rituals, ancient Roman fashion, demonstrations of Roman and barbarian armament and battles from the period of the Roman Dacian and Roman Gothic wars.
Радваме се, че в съвремието България, след като попадна в тази административна единица, известна като Европейски съюз, да подскажа само, че Европейски съюз това е единица от нации и народи, които свободно се придвижват, свободно преминават и стоки, хора, туристи, пътници. Това е било и фундамента на Европейския съюз, а фундамента е била Римската империя. Затова казах Сенатус, Populus Quae Romanus, съвкупност от народи, от провинции, които са обединени в една шапка, и това е империята. Благодарение на тази империя са се случвали много хубави неща, много лесно, само да си бил член и гражданин на империята. Естествено, по това време се говори за робство. Аз не смятам, че е било робство. Това са били народи, които имали различен статут, както и в съвремието. Така че, освен елитните сенатори, които са били предимно в Рим, виждате, че в провинция, която е била Тракия, нашата съвременна България, в провинция Тракия също са живеели местното население Траки и те много добре са паснали като провинция в тази територия. Така че съвремието с Европейския съюз започнаха да възстановяват, да социализират такива обекти като Сексагинта Приста, като Нове, като Доростурум, като Упиескос, Бонония и така нататък. Всички тези крепостни стени, благодарение на общините, които ги стопанисват, и на регионалните и на историческите музеи по места, направиха най-различни проекти, социализираха се и сега виждаме тук сред нас много деца, много родители, което е едно добро място за разходка покрай реката, с добра гледка и естествено да научат някои части от историята.
В днешно време Сексагинта Приста е изключително важна за представянето на римското наследство, на античното наследство изобщо, тук в Русе и в региона, защото само на 3 минути път от центъра ние имаме римска крепост. Това не се знаеше допреди 10 години. През 70-те години са първите разкопки, тогава са консервирани част от крепостните стени и 1/4 бойна кула, но всичко това остава далеч от погледа на тогавашните русенци. Не е било представено като важно, не е търсен път към това наследство. След 2005 година отново се възобновиха работите. Тогава се откри храм на Аполон с тракийския конник, откри се и принципията. Това е сърцето на една римска крепост. Там стои щабът на войсковата част, парите, разбира се, бойните знамена, божествата. Да кажем, че само 4 принципи в цяла България от всички проучвани римски места са открити и представени. Едно от тях е тук на Сексагинта Приста. От 2016 година Дунавският римски лимес в българската част е предложен за списъка на ЮНЕСКО. Той е в така наречения тентатив лист, в предварителният лист на световното културно наследство.
We are very interested in Roman period, And in Poland, of course, there's no Roman history, so Bulgaria is for us a place when we can learn a lot of things that we are interested in. A lot of Roman period, and we are amazed because for the first time we could dig some Roman artifacts like amphoras and Roman coins, which is really
lamps. It's so new for us because we know that only from the books. Yes,
and here we can touch
it's amazing.
It and learn from it.
Okay, so I think the excavation by Roman period is really great idea for everyone who starts studying archaeology.
The Roman and early Byzantine castle of Yatros is situated at the mouth of the Yantra River near the present-day village of Krivina. In 270–275, under the pressure of the barbarian tribes advancing from the north and northeast, the Romans were forced to leave Dacia province, located north of the Danube. Thus, the lower reaches of the river again turned into imperial boundaries. For their effective protection, large-scale construction of fortresses begun. At the time, on the right bank of the Yantra River, at its estuary, a military camp was built, a castle named after the ancient name of the river, Yatros. Yatros occupied an area of nearly 3 hectares. The place is naturally protected by steep slopes from the north and northeast. The fortress follows the outline of the hill, which also determines its irregular shape. The width of the fortress wall in the separate sectors was 3.5 meters, and its presumed height was 10 meters. Outside of the wall there were 10 strongly protruding massive U-shaped towers. 2 of them defended the only gate of the castle.
Казвам се Румен Григоров, кмет на село Кривина, община Ценово, област Русе. В момента се намираме на римско селище Ятрос, което съществува от 4-3 век преди Христа. Селището е населявано от траки, 4-3-2 век преди Христа. Многократно е опожаряван, намирани са много антични предмети от бита и културата на траките. След това кастелът Ятрос е ползван като римско укрепително съоръжение, в което са съхранявали голямо количество храна за войниците и за военни подразделения и са обслужвали града Нове до Свищов. Селището е обект на изследване от 1958 до 2002 година. Тук е кипяла много работа по разкриването на различни обекти. Много важни съоръжения и обекти са открити, като бани, базилики, църкви, в които са кръщавани деца. Крепостната стена е широка около над метър. Тук на място са били около 5-600 войника. Зад нас е разположена най-важната част от римския кастел. Това е така наречената принципия или щаба на войсковото подразделение. В дъното на помещението, в дъгообразна арка, са били разположени знамената, като са почитали и императора на Римската империя.
The settlement functioned together with a road station in the 2nd, 3rd century. Yatras survived until the 7th century, when it was destroyed by the Slavs, Avars and Proto-Bulgarians advancing from the north. A Proto-Bulgarian settlement existed upon its ruins in the period from the 8th to the 13th century. In the course of 6 centuries, from the 1st to the 6th century, the ancient settlement and fortress of Transmariska, located on the territory of the modern-day town of Tutrakan, played an important role in the defense and functioning of the Roman and early Byzantine lines. Transmariska came to life at the end of the first half of the 1st century AD. With the arrival of the first Thracian-Syrian cohort in the 2nd century AD, Transmariska became an integral part of the Roman defense of the lower Danube. In the 2nd and 3rd centuries, Transmariska retained its character, a camp of a not large military unit and a civilian settlement benefiting from the river's transport capabilities, the ancient road along the limes and the favorable economic conditions of the area. The end of the 3rd century marked the beginning of a new development of the fortification system and the role of Transmariska in the defense of the limes. The city became part of a major construction program to stabilize the defense power at the Roman border. Emperor Diocletian personally visited Transmariska in 294, as an inscription has been preserved testifying to this, in which the fortress was called a Presidium. The castle was one of the 4 largest military centers of the lower Danube lines. Here resided the prefect of the second part of the 11th Claudius Legion. Under his command were 5 cohorts of the legion. With them he controlled the river bank from the village of Ryachovo to the village of Dolno Ryachovo. Later in the 5th and 6th centuries, Transmariska was an episcopal center. The city was continuously attacked and destroyed by the Goths and Huns. The ancient settlement was ruined in the early 7th century as a result of barbarian invasions. The Roman and Byzantine fortress, located under the modern-day city, had an area of 65 dekas. From the northern part of the fortress revealed are the fortress wall with 2 square towers with a pavement of stone slabs on the lower level and ceramics on the upper level. The wall had a gate in the middle between the towers and a postern gate in the eastern tower.
Античното селище Трансмариска е създадено през средата на първи век от новата ера, като първоначално тук се заселват италийски преселници, включително и ветерани от 5-ти Македонски легион, а в по-късно време има и преселение на римски граждани от Мала Азия. Селището е един от основните военни пунктове на провинция Долна Мизия, като тук резидира префектът на втора част на 11-ти Коев легион, комуто са подчинени 5 от легионните кохорти. Крепостта е създадена по време на правлението на император Диоклетиан, като това е част от неговата политика за укрепване на римските граници и реорганизацията на римската армия.
This is one of the biggest summer events in the Bulgarian section of the Danube. The Fiery Danube Festival is the culmination of the annual Week of the River, during which diverse cultural and sporting events take place. On the last day is the traditional river feast, which includes competitions with fishing boats swimming across the Danube from bank to bank, children's cartoons, buzza drinking contest, open-air exhibitions, culinary contests for most delicious fish soup, performances of local dance and music groups. The archaeological exhibition of the Tuturcan Museum of History presents findings from the 5th century BC, Thracian pottery, artifacts from the ancient fortress of Transmariska. The lapidarium showcases a Roman grave stele from the 2nd century AD, as well as archaeological finds. The southern fortress wall of Transmariska, with its 2 battle towers, one of which with the shape of a horseshoe, and the other one fan-shaped, is a significant archaeological monument of culture and an interesting tourist site. The ancient castle of Transmariska was declared a monument of culture of national importance in 1968. The first written evidence of the ancient city of Durostorum is found in the order of Emperor Trajan of 106 regarding the transfer of the 11 Claudius Legion from Pannonia to Durostorum. This shows that the city had already existed as a strong fortress. For nearly 3 centuries, this legion served as a striking force against the barbaric tribes invading from the north. Durostorum became a self-governing city, municipium, in 169 under Emperor Marcus Aurelius. In the 2nd century, the city reached its peak as an administrative and economic center as well as an important customs station. Construction was underway of large and beautiful public buildings, temples, basilicas, baths and private homes, marble statues and bas-reliefs. In the squares, water pipes were built. In 238, the Carpi captured the city, robbed it, and took its inhabitants into slavery. Durostorum was ruined for the first time. In the late 3rd, early 4th century, a castle was built, which, with the existing legionary camp, constituted a second defensive belt. It is likely that in the mid-5th century, during the invasions of the Huns, the fortress was destroyed, and in the early 6th century, a new one was built with its borders overlapping with the old one. It had a multi-angled layout. Around 590, the Slavs settled in the area. They also gave a name to the city, Drastar. The city was rich and prosperous. At the fortress, walls 4 solid, triangular and 4 pentagonal towers located 12 meters from each other have been revealed. The wall foundations, 3 meter deep and 3.80 to 3.90 meter wide, were built of small and medium-sized semi-worked stones and cyclopean blocks arranged in precise horizontal rows. Caravans arrived from the roads on the north and west, and ships on the river carried hides, honey, wax, salt from the Carpathian Mountains, and settle from the Carpathian Mountains and cattle from Wallachia intended for Pliska and Constantinople. The binding material was lime, river-coarse sand, and crushed building ceramics. Only the northern fortress wall was built entirely of stone and had no towers. On the southern wall, an early gate from the 4th century has been discovered, flanked by 2 almond-shaped towers. The construction was very solid, thanks to which the castle existed and was used until the beginning of the 19th century, when it was destroyed during the Russo-Turkish War. The city played an important role also over the coming centuries. As the old seat of a bishop, it has been recognized as the first among the episcopal cities of Bulgaria. In the 12th century, it was a metropolitan center. The Archaeological Museum in Silistra is housed in a building constructed between 1923 and 1924 as a branch of the Romanian National Bank in the town. The exhibitions cover an area of 400 square meters and feature artifacts from the prehistoric, ancient and medieval period. Among the most valuable exhibits are the Roman stone sundial, the most impressive one ever discovered in Bulgarian lands, a gold ring from the 3rd century, a column with the name of Khan Motak, seals of Bulgarian and Byzantine rulers, golden jewels from the time of the Draste fortress, and others. The most well-known ancient monument at Girostrum Silistra in Bulgaria and abroad is the tomb with the frescoes discovered in 1942. It is believed to be an emblematic work of the civilization in late antiquity from the mid-4th century. The tomb has a rectangular tomb chamber and semi-cylindrical arches. It is made of semi-worked stones, bonded with pink mortar, and the vault was made of bricks. It is oriented from the east to the west and has dimensions of 3.30 by 2.60 meters, with a height of 2.30 meters. The entrance is from the east, flanked by 3 large stone slabs, and the floor was bricked. The walls were plastered with a lime mortar mixed with gypsum on which, before being dried, the colors of the frescoes were added using the fresco al secco technique. The rich mural decorations, geometric, animal and human figures, hunting scenes, a family couple and their servants bear the distinctive features of the Constantine age, and one can feel the style of a gifted painter coming from the eastern provinces of the empire, possibly Egypt or Syria. Probably the owner left the city during the Gothic invasion at the end of the 4th century, which is why the tomb was not used for its original purpose. The castles and the settlement of Drobeta were founded during Emperor Trajan, when the bridge over the Danube was also built. They functioned until 602, when the Avars destroyed the Roman settlements north of the Danube. In 126, Emperor Hadrian gave the camp the rank of municipium. Under Septimius Severus, he acquires the rank of colony with an area of about 60 hectares and a population of about 40,000 inhabitants. The carp attacks between 245 and 247 led to significant destruction, then repaired. From the time of Justinian dates back to the last restoration of the castle after the Huns attacks will be called Theodora. The first bridge on the Danube, Trajan Bridge, was built between 103 and 105, probably by Apollodorus from Damascus, at the orders of Emperor Trajan. Built of stone and wooden beams, the purpose of the bridge was to allow the transport of the Roman troops and supplies necessary for the second military campaign to conquer Dacia. The bridge was demolished after nearly a century and a half at the time of Aurelian withdrawal. Today, a single pillar is visible on the Romanian Danube bank near the Drobeta Roman castrum. The pylon is an integral part of the archaeological park administered by the Iron Gate Region Museum. Museum of the Iron Gates region is situated in the immediate vicinity of the Roman castles. The museum, whose dates have been laid since 1912, houses an important collection of artifacts including a Roman lapidarium. Besides, 3 of the 9 rooms of the History Archaeology section are dedicated to the Roman age, namely the Dacian Roman Wars, the Roman antique monuments, and the spiritual life in the ancient Drobeta settlement. The Hinova castrum was researched after the Portile di Fier water power system was built. A treasure of Thracian jewels was discovered here in 1980, including 9,639 gold items, and weighing almost 5 kilos. The castrum was built at the end of the 3rd century BC on the Danube border, with 4 towers and an access gate to the south side flanked by 2 rectangular towers. The fortress was destroyed in 378–379, then remade, and it lasted until the beginning of the 5th century. In Hinova, one can also see a part of the Brazda lui Novak or Valul lui Constantin, Constantin's Wall, a vallum-type fortress, a ground-made defense wall, about 700 kilometers long. This defensive line crossed the territory to the south of the southern Carpathians, from Drobeta to the castrum in Pietroasele. It was about 3 meters high, with a 2-meter deep ditch on the northern side. The defense wall defended the territories from the south, and it seems to have been built during the reign of Constantine the Great in the 4th century AD. The Roman stone castrum from Rocari de Jos dates back to the 2nd and 3rd centuries AD, and its mission was to dominate the area of the Lower Jiu. During those times, a civil settlement developed around it, estimated to have about 40 hectares. The fortress has dimensions of 170 by 145 meters. A military unit of riders, numerus maurorum, approximately 500 people coming from North Africa, was stationed here. A treasure of gold coins dating back to the reign of Vespasian, as well as many luxury ceramics, inscriptions and statues, was discovered during the research. Nearby is Roman stone camp from Cioroio No. Proof of Roman rule, the camp is dated in the 2nd century AD. Nearby, a rustic villa was also identified. The locality is situated 20 kilometers north of the Danube. The fortification is located southeast of the present Cioroio No village, to the edge of the cemetery, and its dimensions were said to be 235 by 130 meters. The importance of the camp derives from the fact that a detachment legion, 7 Claudia, was cantoned in this camp. Several monuments, a temple, Thermae, a building with a hippocaust dated to the 3rd century AD, have been researched here. From the text of an inscription, it appears that a military watch and guard point operated here in the 3rd century. Partially destroyed by the Carps in 245, The fortification was rebuilt with trench and wall of defense. The Oltenia Museum is founded in 1915 as the Ethnography and Antiquities Museum of Oltenia, in a building erected in 1905, and the Archaeology Department was created in 1926. The museum currently hosts more than 20 collections totaling 170,000 items of numismatics, medallistics, memorial objects, etc. Collections of archaeological items include items from the Neolithic age, from the Metals age, from the Dacian civilization with Greek-Roman influences, as well as Roman provincial art items. The numismatic collections includes the Roman Republican treasures of Ticleni, Gorj, Farcasele, Olt, Isalnita and Cana, Dolj, the Roman imperial treasures of Barca, Galicia Mare, Tunarii Veci, Slavenii, Dolj, Leurda, Gorj, Butuiesti, Mehedinti. As one of the largest Roman Byzantine fortresses in Oltenia, the Suceava fortress dates back to the 3rd, 6th centuries AD. An old military and economic center of the Suki tribe had been located here. A bridge over the Danube was built during the reign of Constantine the Great, whose vestiges can still be seen nowadays. After the destruction caused by the Huns' invasions, the fortress is remade during the reign of Justinian, during 527 and 535. A basilica remains from the early Christian period, where some graves have been discovered. A special installation is the 18-meter deep well. Vestiges included in the fortress visit circuit. The tell-shaped settlement, with 11 phases of inhabitation, vestiges of the Ghetto Dacian inhabitants. The Roman well of the 2nd century AD, the Roman Byzantine fortress, the portal of Constantine the Great's bridge over the Danube, the West Gate, the building from the 4th, 5th centuries, the building with the Hippocaust, the Secret Well, 6th century, the Paleo-Byzantine Basilica, the tower pillar of Constantine's Passerelle. The Rumula-Malva archaeological site is located on the territory of Dobrosloveni commune, Old County, near Caracal on the right bank of Olt. The site presents the vestiges of a Roman fortification, Romula, built in the 2nd-3rd centuries AD on the site of a Dacian fortress, Malva, around which an urban settlement later developed. During the reign of Emperor Hadrian, Romula was declared municipium. Today, the archaeological site comprises edifices in various conservation stages: stone and brick walls, canal with Roman bridge, gates of the city, Roman baths, the Curia. However, a variety of artifacts are exhibited in the Caracal Romanati Museum. The bridge built during the first Christian emperor, inaugurated in the summer of 328, stretched over a length of 2,437.5 meters, considered one of the longest bridges in antiquity. Its lifespan was small until the end of the 4th century, but it had the role of uniting the Roman territories from the north and the south of the Danube. The ruins of the Roman bridge are about 40 meters north of the bank of the Danube. The most well-preserved northern portal had the role of saw-picking, being built on a platform made of irregularly cut stone bound with mortar. The Museum of Romanati in Caracal is with archaeology profile. The institution hosts collection of ceramics, opaques, gems, fibula, inscriptions, statues and coins of the Roman age coming from the Dobrosloveni, Romula and Hotarani sites. The lapidarium is located at the entrance of the museum, a valuable sector which consists of over 20 pieces: sarcophagi, gates, funerary stones, supplies vessels. The resistance piece is the sarcophagus of Aelius Julius Julianus, 3rd century AD, with the dimensions of 2.30 by 1.08 by 1.54 meters, made of limestone from Vratsa, with beautiful sculptural ornaments. According to the inscription, the sarcophagus was raised by the deceased wife, Valeria Gamelina, along with the children. The sarcophagus was discovered near Romula in the Hotarani necropolis in 1952. The Thomas colony was established as an emporium, trade exchange center, in the 6th century BC on the western seaside of Pontus Euxinus. It becomes a polis in the Hellenic period, as of the 4th century BC. The city was a member of alliances, Pentapolis and the Hexapolis, between Pontic cities. The Latin poet Publius Ovidius Naso was exiled here in 9 AD by Augustus.
Tomis became an important Christian center too. We know about a list of bishops beginning with the 4th century AD, bishops which were also participating in the gatherings, in the meetings of the early Christian church in different places in Asia Minor especially.
During the reign of the Diocletian, between 284 and 305, Tomis becomes the capital of the Lower Mysia province. 7 early Christian basilicas are known here so far. Port facilities developed, the issue of potable water was solved, monuments were built. Ancient monuments are currently valorized, such as the Roman building with a mosaic, the citadel's agora, an ancient neighborhood, the Thermae, the Roman Byzantine inner wall of the 4th and 6th centuries AD. The Museum of National History and Archaeology Constanta dates back to 1977. It exhibits pieces of prehistoric, Greek, Roman, Byzantine and medieval archaeology. In 2 halls, located on the ground floor of the museum, are reunified the archaeological monuments of outstanding value, rare and uniquely representative for the Roman dwelling stage. Respectively for the Roman Empire, art and culture. The collection of Tanagra statues from early Hellenistic and Roman times, anthropomorphic ceramic pots or Dionysial representations, the Tomitan sculpture treasure discovered in 1962, the goddess Isis bust, the double act of the goddess Nemesis, the statue group Fortuna with Pontos, the statue of serpent Glycon, etc. The collection of imperial portraits, Antonius Pius Caracalla, Gordian III, Philip Arab, Constantine. Collections of gold ornaments, such as rings, earrings, bracelets, pendants, crosses, gemstones and cameos. The treasure of silver pots discovered at Sukidava Springs. Other Roman period artifacts include epigraphic documents, stamped bricks, milieu pillars, architectural elements, agricultural tools, various ceramic materials, among which the collection of litter, sculpture, votive and funeral, busts of citizens, a solar dial, representations of divinities such as Venus, Apollo, Hercules, Cybele, the Thracian Knight, portraits and funeral stars. The Roman edifice with mosaic was probably built at the end of the 2nd century AD and later enlarged and amplified. The mosaic pavement was made in the 4th century, the ensemble functioning long after the Aurelian retreat until the beginning of the 7th century. From the initial pavement, a portion of about 850 square meters was preserved. The ensemble also includes rooms that served as warehouses or workshops in the ancient times. In the Roman era, the edifice is in the immediate vicinity of the ancient port. The museistic arrangements shelter collections of merchandise from ships found in the building's storehouses, anchors, ingots, weighs, amphoras with paints and resins, statuettes, collections of mosaics, marble planks, polychrome mosaic, pyramid heads. Previous epigraphic monuments discovered in different centers in Dobruja are displayed in the former storehouses. The mosaic-paved edifice is located on Terrace B. A portion of 850 square meters has been preserved from the pavement. Terrace A represents the level of ancient dwelling, and Terrace C is the level of halls, 11 rooms with vaulted ceilings. At the same level, along the edifice, there is a number of rooms that served as workshops. Terrace D is the level of other warehouses for storing goods, right in front of the ancient harbor quays. They are currently below sea level. The Tomis Ancient Festival aims at promoting the ancient lifestyle as well as the Roman cultural and historical heritage of the area and the ancient city of Tomis. Visitors can partake in diverse activities related to ancient arts and crafts, pottery-making workshops, metalworking, and can also get acquainted with ancient textiles and clothing, gastronomy, military equipment, leather. The program includes music and dance performances as well as cultural excursions to the historic part of Constanta. The museum complex of Adamklisi includes the Roman fortress, the museum and the triumphal monument. The fortress was founded after the wars of Dacia's conquest by Trajan were completed.
Adamklisi, which in translation means the church of men in Turkish, is a place where one of the most important battles between the Romans, led by Emperor Trajan, and the local population, the Dacians, took place. So after these wars between the Romans and the local Dacians, let's say, the population living north of the Danube, after these wars, an important monument was built here, which can be seen today. It is the largest monument in the eastern part of the Roman Empire, especially because here a lot of Romans have left their lives in these battles, fierce battles taking place. The Romans wanted to conquer Dacia, this area north of the Danube, because of its gold, its agricultural products which could be grown here, and so on and so on. This is why these wars in 101, 102, 105, 106 took place north of the Danube, in the center of the Dacian state, in Sarmiseș-Ghetusa. This was the capital of the Dacian state here, led by Decebalus, the Dacian king. Trajan wanted to conquer this area, so battles were fought not only near Drobeta, upstream the Danube, but also here in this area, which already was a Roman province at that time of the beginning of the 2nd century AD. It was strategic, let's say, move of the Dacian king to attack an already existing Roman province to ease the pressure on the center of his state. So he got his allies to attack Mysia, this area here at the lower Danube. So Trajan had to confront this alliance of the Dacian king. So important battles during these wars were fought here in Dobruja, not only here in Adamklisi, ancient Tropeon Traiani, but also in Nicopolis at Istru, in the Bulgarian part of Dobruja, south of the Danube. The monument was built between 106, 109 AD, in the same time when in Rome Trajan's column was built, a column depicting the wars between the Dacians and the Romans, which led to foundation of the new province, Dacia. Coming back to Adamklisi, near the monument there was a city founded by Trajan and named after monument which was built at that time there. It is Tropeum Traiani, today's Adamklisi, a city which developed as an important economic center too, because it was placed just in the middle of this province, linking the ways, the roads leading from the north to the south, to the center of the province, and from east to west. This is why the city became a municipium, a municipality, second century AD, and of course many exchanges took place here between the population living here in this area and tradesmen who came here to sell their products. Adam Klisi also has a museum in which the original parts of the monument are sheltered. I must stress that these original parts are recovered to a percentage of about 80%. This is why we can now see the restitution of the monument on the place where it was built initially. Of course, the museum also shelters a lot of artifacts which were discovered here in this area.
Grigore Tocilescu said that the monument was a birth certificate of the Romanian people. The Capidava fortress is located on the right shore of the Danube, between Topalu and Dunărea. The fortress can be reached by using either the road from Hârșova, E61, or the road from Cernavodă, the Fetești-Cernavodă highway. Research began here from the third decade of the 20th century. The fortress has dimensions of 127 by 105 meters, and the fairly well-preserved walls include 7 towers of various shapes. The main gate is on the southeast side. The gate communicating with the citadel's port is on the southwest side. It was erected from the times of the Trajan by sections of the 5 Macedonica and 11 Claudia legions and the beginning of the 2nd century AD as a component of the Danube border. The name is due to the fact that Dava meant turn place in the Dacian language.
So Capidava is one of the most important bases of the Roman army along the Danube. It is a city built on a hill overlooking the entire area of the Danube in that region. It was also a point where the Danube could be crossed, and this made it a very important economic center too. Here, a lot of dwellings were researched, were excavated, but also very rich, let's say, cemetery dating back to the 4th century AD and continuing until the late Byzantine times. It is an important economic center because this area behind the hinterland of Capidava is a very rich soil land with crops of wheat and all kinds of agricultural products. So it had also an area, let's say, behind the city, there was an area in which other little settlements were found, especially with agricultural character. Capidava was also a base of the Byzantine fleet on the Danube, because we know from historical sources that the Byzantines patrolled the Danube in the late 9th, 10th, 11th century to defend this line against people coming from the north. Well, restorations took place in the 60s, in the 70s. That was the first phase of restoration, of putting the objective into value, into touristic value.
In the heart of Constanta, there is a small town called Histria, a Greek colony established in the 7th century BC by colonists from Milet. Histria evolved during the Hellenic and Roman period until the 7th century AD. The complex includes the Histria Fortress Museum and the ruins of the Greek-Roman city. Histria was discovered by the archaeologist Vasil Parvan in 1914, and archaeological research has not been interrupted ever since. In the fortress one can see the stone wall from the Roman-Byzantine period, with towers and gates, the ancient streets and squares, foundations of basilicas, houses and stalls, Roman baths, ancient temples.
One of the oldest cities here at the Black Sea coast is Histria, which was founded by Greek colonists coming from Milet in the 7th century BC. It developed as an ancient city, a poleis, as we call it, of course, during the Roman period. It continued its development because it was an important harbor through which many products of the local population or of the local inhabitants generally could be exported to the mainland of Greece or to Asia Minor. It was an economic center too, next to its important cultural role it played. During the Roman domination here in Dobruja at the lower Danube, Istria became an important center for Christian religion. We know that there was a bishop here, one of the first bishops here at the Black Sea coast. An important building was found in Istria, was excavated, basilica, which probably is the bishopric basilica. The Romans didn't interfere too much in the inner life, let's say, of these cities at the Black Sea coast. So we find inscriptions in Greek and in Latin. We know that there was a population which was mixed, not only locals, let's say, but also Greek and Romans who lived together there in Istria. It became an important destination, tourist destination, in the last years because restorations were undertaken, as in other places in the 60s and 70s, but also restorations, recent restorations, which put into value the newly discovered, newly excavated areas, such as the Domus area. It is an area of the city where large buildings were excavated, villas, as we know them. The temple area also is excavated during the time. The museum in Istria was firstly organized in a little building next to the excavation site, and later on, in the 80s, the large museum, which can be seen now, was built. In it, important discoveries are exhibited, and inscriptions and amphoras and all kinds of archaeological objects which show level of culture there and the level of people who lived there in the Greek period and then in the Roman period too.
Established in 1982 and subordinated to the National History and Archaeology Museum of Constanta, the museum exhibits items of Greek, Roman and Byzantine archaeology proceedings from the research in Istria and around. The collection includes ceramic and stone dishes, personal and domestic items, sculptures, architectural items, inscriptions. Calatis is the southernmost of the Greek colonies on the Romanian seaside. It was founded by colonists from Pontic Heraclea in the 4th century BC. It is the only Dorian colony with an oligarchic social system. In 262 BC had a conflict with Thomas, who was helped by the Byzantine fleet. During the 3rd–6th centuries AD, there were built public buildings, basilicas, and the walls of the enclosure. The invasions of the migratory peoples led to the decline of the city until the 7th century. At Calatis was discovered the only papyrus in the country exhibited today in the museum. The ancient harbour of Calatis, as well as a part of the ancient polis, are currently below the Black Sea level. Today, some of the remains of the old Calatis fortress can be admired at the hotel in Mangalia. The vestiges were brought to light in 1993 on the occasion of repair and construction works. The archaeological site discovered, subsequently restored, arranged for sightseeing in the hotel lobby and the basement of the restaurant. Thus, the vestiges can now be visited, the hotel being considered the only museum hotel with archaeological vestiges in Romania. Another landmark in the area is the Calcium Roman fortress. It was built in the 1st century AD on the site of a Getic settlement. At the beginning of the 2nd century AD, during Trajan's reign, the fortress was reinforced with a stone core. Written sources mention calcium until the 7th century, with various forms: calcium, carsom, carso. Moreover, they also mention Roman military units stationed here, Ala Flaviana, the 1st Iovia Scytica Legion, with the mission of protecting the Danube crossing place. After the 7th century, the plateau hosted the medieval fortress, which was rebuilt by the Byzantines in the 10th century and then by the Genoan. A port facility was also operational during all historical periods. A wall of the fortress, about 40 meters high, can still be observed nowadays towards the Danube. The museum illustrates, with the most representative discoveries in Harsova and around, the development of the material and spiritual civilization in the Danube area, from the Neolithic to the beginning of the modern age. Outstanding items are exhibited, some of which were presented in international or national exhibitions typical for Neolithic cultures, such as Hamangia or Gumelnita, for the culture of the Metal Age, for Roman, Byzantine and medieval civilization.